Y News. Economists report of an increase in the price of commodities last month. Ambassador Renato Villa arrives in the country after being declared persona non grata in Kuwait, as the Department of Foreign Affairs look for ways to solve the misunderstanding between the two countries. And Malacañang urges the Office of the Ombudsman to look into the Commission on Audit report on questionable expenses of some government agencies.
From the UNTV News and Rescue Command Center in Quezon City, this is Y News.
Good evening. Economists observe an acceleration in the inflation rate in April. Monokson tells us why.
Bonivic Gumandang usually buys more products when he goes to a supermarket. But after he noticed a spike in the prices, he now only purchases what he needs.
Mga kailangan lang. Masasayang din naman pag pag hindi na nagamit.
Economists say they have recorded an increase in the prices of several commodities in April. And one reason is the implementation of the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion or train law. They note much faster movement in prices of rice, canned goods, paper products, sugar-sweetened beverages, and services and products that uses oil. Economists also observe oil price hikes for 3 consecutive weeks. The National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA expects a 4% inflation rate during the first quarter of 2018. But the economists say the target has already been exceeded last month by 4.6%. They believe the inflation rate will continue to accelerate this year. The country will only recover if all infrastructure projects of the government will be finished and problems such as traffic congestion will be addressed.
Posibleng makakabawi tayo, depende sana kung bumilis na yung mga ginagawang infrastructure ng gobyerno. Kasi yung mga ginagawa ng gobyernong infrastructure, tulong sa ekonomiya, tulong sa mga negosyo, tulong sa manggagawa, sana bumilis yun, giginhawa buhay natin.
While consumers groups appeal to the government for help and urge the Supreme Court to immediately issue a ruling on whether to restrain or not the implementation of the train law.
For the first 4 months pa lang of the year, nag-exceed na ng target nila ang inflation. Meaning mataas talaga ang presyo ng mga bilihin o serbisyo.
Tomorrow, the Philippine Statistics Authority is set to issue their report regarding the inflation rate for the first quarter of the year. Monhokson, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano stresses that Philippine diplomats arrested in Kuwait did not violate any law in rescuing the distressed OFWs in the Gulf state. Asher Cadapan Jr. tells us why.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano personally welcomed Philippine Ambassador to Kuwait Renato Villa when he arrived in the country last night. Villa is back in the country after Kuwaiti government declared him a persona non grata. This stemmed from the controversial rescue mission of the Philippine Embassy for the distressed Filipino workers in Kuwait. Villa is hoping the tension between Philippines and Kuwait be resolved.
I sincerely hope that we can all move forward and work together with Kuwait in securing and providing our distinct core national interests, the well-being of overseas Filipinos.
Secretary Cayetano says out of the 38 rescue operations conducted by the embassy, 35 were coordinated to Kuwaiti authorities, while the remaining 3 were conducted in haste due to grave danger. Cayetano adds the arrested Filipino diplomats involved in the mission have immunity, but this was allegedly rejected by the Kuwaiti government in the belief that they committed breach of sovereignty. However, the secretary stresses the Filipino diplomats committed no violation under Vienna Convention. Cayetano has previously apologized regarding the incident.
Kalma lang po, part talaga po to ng misunderstanding, pero meron tayong objectives, no? At ang objective dito, yung welfare ng ating overseas Filipino. And we will get to that objective while repairing any damage or restoring the strength of our relationship with Kuwait.
As of this time, there are still about 800 distressed OFWs staying in the embassy shelters in Kuwait, and about 120 OFWs are in need of rescuing. The Kuwaiti government promised to work hand in hand with the Philippines in resolving the conflict. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
President Rodrigo Duterte is yet to take action on the controversial Tourism Department advertisement deal with the state-run People's Television or PTV4. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
The Office of the President is now looking into the controversial 60 million peso advertisement contract placed in the program managed by the brothers of Tourism Secretary Juan Thio in the state-run People's Television or PTV4. However, the presidential spokesperson refuses to divulge who particularly in the president's office investigates the issue. But the Malacañang assures the probe includes all those involved and the president will take appropriate actions once the investigation is complete.
Masyado naman kayong atat. Hayaan nyo munang mag-imbestiga sandali at tignan natin kung tama o mali. O, di ba? So hayaan nyo muna. May track record na po si Presidente.
Previous reports say that aside from Tourism Secretary Thio, the probe also covers Presidential Communications Secretary Martin Andanar. Andanar oversees PTV4 as Palace Communications Chief.
Of course, it will be an investigation that would cover everyone. No? I leave the statement of Sap Bongo for whatever it is worth. He was the one quoted as having said that Secretary Andanar is part of that, so I let it be.
Andanar meanwhile refused to give comments on this issue while the investigations are ongoing. For now, Malacañang said President Duterte has no directives for the cabinet members involved in the controversy to resign, particularly Secretary Thio.
Every cabinet member, unless they're fired, enjoys the trust and confidence of the President.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
Vice President Leni Robredo's trust rating fell by 13 points based on the latest social weather stations or SWS survey. From positive 52 or very good rating in December 2017, the Vice President's trust rating drops to positive 39 or good rating in the first quarter of 2018. The survey was done to 1,200 respondents from March 23 to 27. Vice President Robredo is grateful for the survey results and considers it a new challenge to work harder to provide assistance to the poor. She says she faced a lot of challenges in the previous months, including the issue on fake news.
The well-funded attacks range from vicious lies to ridiculous fabrications. The latest one being that I met with the European Parliament to destabilize the existing administration. We need to confront these lies and unmask them for what they are.
Some media organizations say cases of violence against members of the media under the Duterte administration rose to 85. On the other hand, Malacañang denies that attacks against the media have worsened under the term of President Rodrigo Duterte. John Nano will tell us why.
Some media organizations have expressed concern over the rising number of the cases of attacks and violence against members of the media under the Duterte administration. Data presented by the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility, Philippine Press Institute, and Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism, or PCIJ, shows attacks on media members rose to 85 within the 2 years in power of President Duterte. The cases allegedly involved 9 killings, 16 libel cases, 14 online harassment, 11 death threats, and 6 cases of slay attempts. They note the said number is significantly higher than the cases recorded in the previous administrations. PCIJ Executive Director Malu Mangaha says the treatment of the administration to the media should not affect its members in providing information to the public.
The master and muse of all the work we do is the public. I think we should care less about Mr. Duterte. He could continue to rant and rave and criticize and insult, but the point is not to be affected.
Meanwhile, Malacañang denies reports that cases of abuse against the press have worsened under the Duterte administration.
I dispute that po kasi sa pagdating sa patayan, bumaba po talaga ang patayan sa Pilipinas at bumaba po ang rangko ng Pilipinas doon sa mga listahan ng most dangerous places in the world for journalists. Let's give credit where it is true.
The palace also condemned the cases of killings of the members of the media and church.
Ang gobyerno po ay gumagawa ng hakbang para tuparin ang kanyang responsibilidad. No? Iimbestigahan po natin yan lilitisin at paparusahan ng mga pumapatay.
Roque says the government is ready to provide security to media members who've experienced credible threat. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Malacañang is urging the Ombudsman to look into the latest reports of the Commission on Audit in relation to the questionable expenses of some government agencies. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque hopes that the Office of the Ombudsman will do something about the recent reports of the Commission on Audit regarding the questionable transactions of some government offices. This is the reaction of Malacañang when asked about the COA report questioning the 627.29 thousand pesos local travel expenses of Philippine Health Insurance Interim President Celestina Maria Jude de la Serna.
All these reports are coming out because the COA reports have been published. The COA reports are given to Congress, they're given to the Ombudsman. So ang apila ko lang po, lahat itong mga COA report na ito, hindi naman dapat sa presidente lang ang tinatanong kung anong gagawin ng presidente. Talagang kung meron po talagang paglabag ng anti-graft law, ang constitutional body na dapat nag-iimbestiga nito, even motu proprio, should be the Ombudsman.
Aside from this, COA also questioned the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office or PLLO for hiring 9 consultants which had cost the office 3.07 million pesos. And the most recent one, the controversy facing the Tourism Department on the 60 million peso advertisement contract with the program of the Brothers of Tourism Secretary Thio on PTB4. Roque also encourages the Ombudsman to perform its mandate to file appropriate charges once they gather enough evidence.
The Ombudsman has to investigate and has to do its own case build-up. You just can't go to court and say, here's the COA report, convict. No, it doesn't work that way.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
Trash traps were placed in several waterways in Metro Manila to trace toppled U-turns in several areas. Mai Bermudez will tell us why.
The Pasig River Rehabilitation Commission and local government units placed metal and net trash traps between estuaries and bridges in some parts of Metro Manila. Selected areas include Del Monte Avenue, Quezon Avenue, Diliman Avenue in Rojas District, Ermitaño Creek in Quezon City, Maytunas Creek in San Juan and Mandaluyong, and Buhangin Creek, situated in New Panaderos Bridge in Manila. Every day, trash traps filter about 50,000 kilograms of garbage, which are then delivered to accredited dumping facilities. Due to reckless disposal of solid wastes in waterways, the ALG is set to release a memo against individuals, barangays, and factories that are allegedly behind the volumes of garbage.
Our goal is to eliminate yung source ng pollution dito sa number 1 sa San Juan River. Yung goal ho namin hindi na ho natin makita kasing dumi ng mga nakaraang taon itong ating, especially San Juan River and yung mga ibang areas of Metro Manila.
Persons, LGUs, or companies found to be causing the pollution of rivers will face charges of violating Republic Act 9003 or Ecological Solid Waste Management Act. Violators may face fines ranging from 300 pesos to imprisonment of 1 to 6 years. Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Several schools in La Union benefit from a digital library given by the Department of Science and Technology. Grace Casin will tell us why.
Duplas National High School in Sudipen, La Union are lacking in books that teachers and students need for research. Josephine Cac, the school principal, said internet connection is also a problem in the library. That is why the Science and Technology Academic and Research-based openly operated kiosk station, or Starbooks, is a great help to them. The digital library given by the Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, can be used for science and technology information research and does not need internet connection.
Ay mahalaga po sa amin dahil po kami na sa bundok po, kaya kailangan namin to dahil para makatulong sa aming mga estudyante.
Starbooks contain K-12 teaching materials, interactive videos which can be used as materials for teaching, disaster mitigation plans, and encyclopedia, among others.
Makakatulong po ito lalong-lalo sa mga student, no? Madadagdagan po yung mga kaalaman nila, sir. Mas makakaroon po sila ng malawak na information about sa mga technologies or anything related po sa science and technology po.
The DOST provided Starbucks kiosks to 9 schools in La Union. Each kiosk cost 25 to 40,000 pesos. The DOST Region 1 aims to provide Starbucks kiosk to 126 schools in the entire Ilocos region. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano will not step down unless ordered by President Rodrigo Duterte. This was Secretary Cayetano's response to circulating reports saying some career diplomats in the Department of Foreign Affairs or DFA are calling for his resignation. The DFA Secretary says there really are people who want him to resign, and he respects that. But the Secretary appeals not to use the name of the department and its career officials if the call for his resignation did not really come from them.
So if the President tells me to go, I will go happily and I will continue to support him. If a majority in the Department of Foreign Affairs says we cannot follow you, I have no business being there. But so far, I have had meetings with them and so far, they understand. They might not necessarily agree with our direction, but they understand.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque meanwhile says the President's trust in Secretary Cayetano remains.
As far as the palace is concerned, there's no reason for him to resign.
Because
I think he still has the full trust and confidence of the President. And I think what we have in Kuwait is something that can be overcome eventually, sooner or later.
Former Court of Appeals Associate Justice Socorro Inting has taken oath as a new elections commissioner. COMELEC Chairman Al Pareño led Inting's oath-taking at the Office of the Commission on Elections. Inting replaces retired COMELEC Commissioner Arthur Lim. His term will end on February 2, 2025. Meanwhile, 2 more positions have yet to be filled in the 7-man commission. Retired Commissioner Christian Robert Lim and former Chairman Andres Bautista, who have recently stepped down from posts, have yet to be replaced. Philippine National Police or PNP Chief Director General Oscar Albayalde plans on sending to Mindanao police officers on floating status amid complaints and charges against them. General Albayalde says there is a lack of police force in Mindanao, so he wants to utilize cops facing administrative cases since they still receive their wages. Data from the PNP's Directorate for Personnel and Records Management shows some 101 police officers are placed in the Personnel Holding and Accounting Unit while their cases are being heard.
We need people dun sa I just came from Coronadal. The request is additional personnel. So actually, we will be accounting lahat ng mga tao natin dun sa holding and accounting units kung sino ang pwede nating i-deploy.
Next on Y News. Teachers undergo COMELEC training for upcoming local polls. And probe on local government units and government agencies involved in Boracay issue is near completion, says the Department of the Interior and Local Government. Y News will be right back. I'm Darlene Basingan. Stay tuned for Angelo, Castro III. Good evening.
On Y News tonight, the Department of the Interior and Local Government urges the public to capture in photos and videos barangay and SK candidates who violate campaign rules. The Philippine National Police will place the barangay officials in the PDEA's narco list under its Tokhang operations. The Public Attorney's Office files 6th Dengbaksha controversy-related case before the Department of Justice. The Philippine National Police will launch an Oplan Tokhang against barangay officials in the recently released narco list of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency. Lea Ilagan tells us why.
The Philippine National Police or PNP will place under Oplan-Tukhang barangay officials included in PIDEA's list of personalities allegedly involved in illegal drugs. PNP Chief Police Director General Oscar Albayalde says they are awaiting the validated narco list from PIDEA. Albayalde explains cops will visit and urge barangay officials in the said list to stop using or peddling illegal drugs.
What makes them so special kung kahit naman sila ay elected official, kung ginagawa naman natin yan sa ating mga kababayan, then we can always also do that sa kanila.
The PNP chief notes that drug users will also undergo rehabilitation. They will also gather evidence against alleged protectors of drug syndicates and will file charges against them.
We can apply search warrant and we can conduct active police operations sa laban sa kanila. Yung iba namang gustong mag-surrender, then they are so welcome also.
Albayalde says they will conduct tukhang on the said barangay officials the same way they do it to ordinary Filipinos. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue Camp Crame.
Teachers serving as Board of Election Tellers in the May 14 Barangay and SK polls has begun training under the Commission on Elections, while the Alliance of Concerned Teachers opens an election hotline for teachers in the upcoming polls. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Unlike the automated 2016 national elections, the May 14 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections will be manual. This means voters will have to write the names of their chosen candidates and Board of Canvassers will have to manually count the votes. To make sure that teachers are ready for the manual elections, the Commission on Elections are training the teachers serving as a Board of Election Tellers. More than 600,000 teachers nationwide will serve on Election Day. In Quezon City, teachers were taught the general instructions for the Electoral Board.
Malaki po ang kaibahan po nito sa mga nakaraang mga elections. Ngayon po magkakaroon manual manual ang bilangan po, plus 3 po ang klase ng botante po ngayon.
Teachers were also taught of their rights and the prohibitions.
They should not engage in any partisan political activity, di ba? So, kahit friends po nila yung mga tumatakbo, dapat di po sila nag-endorse.
Meanwhile, the QC Alliance of Concerned Teachers launched today a 24/7 election hotline. Teachers may report here any violence, abuse, and harassment they will experience while performing their election duties.
Ginawa po ito kasi merong teacher sa Batangas na hinaras, pilit na inagaw ang balota. No? Isang polling precinct yan sa Batangas na pilit inagaw ang balota at hindi niya binigay. So dahil ayaw niya na maagaw ang balota na ito, pinadlock siya ng mga armadong lalaki at sinunog ang polling precinct. So pati yung teacher at yung balota ay nasunog din.
The Election Service Reform Act of 2016 states that aside from honoraria, teachers will also be provided with insurance. COMELEC assures there is enough number of deployed policemen in polling precincts, and police forces will be augmented in areas identified as election hotspots in the upcoming local polls. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Several barangays in Tarlac have no candidates for the Sangguniang Kabataan elections. Meanwhile, the military and police call on candidates to not fear rebel groups. Joanano tells us why.
79 of the 511 barangays in the province of Tarlac have no candidates for the upcoming Sangguniang Kabataan elections. The Commission on Elections or COMELEC explains it sees various reasons for the sudden decline in the number of youths interested to run as SK candidates. One is the implementation of the anti-dynasty provision that prohibits individuals with a relative in government office from running. Another is the criticism that the Sangguniang Kabataan becomes the root of corruption. COMELEC says youths also choose to work in companies and earn money, then serve as an official in the barangay.
Kung wala siyang interest na maging public servant talaga, so ang unahin niya yung magtrabaho.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG is studying the possible remedies for the said concern.
It's either magkaroon ng special election or by appointment. Yun, importante yun. Kasi there are 42,000 barangay, mukhang nasa 30,000 plus lang ang nag-file ng SK. So hindi pwede magkaroon ng vacuum.
Meanwhile, the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police advise candidates to not give in to fear of rebel groups that demand money in exchange for allowing them to campaign in their bailiwicks.
Kung meron pong mga ganitong insidente, pwede po lumapit sa kapulisan, sa Pumulek, para makakarating po sa atin para marespondihan agad.
Meanwhile, there are two areas of concern interlocked. These are the barangays Mauled and Cristo Rey in Capas. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Poll candidates in Cebu and Baguio City sign a peace covenant, while UNTV, along with the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine National Police, and other radio groups, sign a memorandum of agreement in relation to the upcoming polls. Gladys Tuabe tells us why.
Poll candidates in Cebu and Baguio City vowed to push for clean and honest elections. Earlier, the candidates from 80 barangays in Cebu signed a peace covenant. But the Cebu City Police Office says if the candidates will not be true to their promises, cops are ready to respond to any incidents.
Dili sila matinud-anon sa ilahang gikan ng saad o gilang gipanumpa. And og nakita mo ginato ang kinahanglan na og kanang intervention sa PNP kana muadto na gid mian kinahanglan gid mi intervene para lang gid natay hapsay nga election 2018.
In Baguio City, Comelec reminds 2,000 candidates to not violate election laws. One is the number of watchers that candidates are allowed to assign.
Hindi kami naudi nga eleksyon, duwa, di mabalindang i-appoint nga watcher. Katatta, may salaangan.
Meanwhile, some radio communication groups led by the National Telecommunications Commission or NTC Region 9, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Philippine National Police, and UNTV News gathered this morning to sign a Memorandum of Cooperation and Memorandum of Agreement. This aims to unify all groups in the region in giving accurate information to the public, especially this coming elections. A regional communication committee was also formed with NTC, primarily supervising the spread of information to its members.
If in a case na may mga areas na kailangan ng communication group, through sa panel na yon, pwede tayong maglagay ng communication doon. So tulong-tulong tayo, kumbaga bayanihan tayo sa lahat ng radio group.
Yung purpose nito hindi lang sa coming election, kundi disaster also is being one of the purpose.
Malaki itong naitutulong sa ating pong ginagawang UNTV News and Rescue dahil magkakaroon po ito ng mabilisang dissemination of information.
The NTC believes UNTV can give a huge contribution to the group as it has its own rescue unit. NTC also gave UNTV its own frequency so it could easily gather more information.
Yung programs ninyo talaga actually model din eh. Kayo yung model, no? Nakita natin sa serbisyo muna bago balita. Parang kayo din ang model na inaano namin, tinitingnan namin para ituloy yung ganitong klase na advocacies natin.
The committee is expected to help in monitoring the upcoming polls, especially when turmoil happens. The public can easily report it to authorities. Gladys Tuabi, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government or DILG files charges against 10 barangay chairmen in Aroroy, Masbate before the Office of the Ombudsman. The DILG says the respondents failed to establish Barangay Anti-Drug Abuse Council or BADAC as required by law. On Monday, the same charges were also filed by the DILG against other 5 barangay chairmen.
So ito po yung mga unorganized na BADAC who will be facing administrative cases for dereliction of duty.
The Department of the Interior and Local Government says its investigation into officials and government agencies behind the issue on Boracay Island is near completion. In the initial examination of the agency, neglect is one of the main reasons why the island is experiencing problems. Darlene Moreno will tell us why.
Governance. This is one of the problems the DILG saw in Boracay, which it says resulted to the island's temporary closure. The DILG cited as example the results of the examination of the Bureau of Inspection Committee yesterday, where the 31 establishments they visited, only 1 have complete permits. Some of the areas visited by the BIC said they were not aware of the complete papers they need in building establishments, while others have documents although they have no prerequisite permit.
It entails na meron talagang nagkulang dito. Ang iimbestigahan mo dyan is yung nag-issue ng permit. And in such cases, government yun side na.
Vincent Cifra of the DILG Plans and Program says there really had been neglect on the part of the local government unit and several government agencies. For now, the case build-up of the Boracay investigating team under current officials of Aklan is near completion.
Possible case sa LGU is more on hindi ka dapat nagbigay ng permit kung hindi ka fully compliant sa mga prerequisite na mga permits, bakit ka nagbigay? In this case din, yung mga administrative cases din, so pwede ring ma-file sa kanila.
Meanwhile, the LGU officials say they are ready to face the charges that might be filed against them by the DILG.
He has said repeatedly na he is willing to answer for his actions. Yung investigation kasi we have been very open. Kung anong dokumento hiningi nila, binibigay namin, no?
Lalaine Moreno, UNTV News and Rescue, Boracay Island.
Government-owned agricultural lands is set to undergo reforms. Agrarian Reform Secretary John Castro says President Rodrigo Duterte himself gave the directive during a land distribution activity in Malunay, Quezon yesterday. Based on the initial figures of DAR, the reform might cover around 300 to 600,000 hectares of land. The land areas that might be subject for distribution include the almost 4,000 hectares Davao Penal Colony and the 3,000 hectares Arakan Valley in Cotabato. Aside from this, there are more than 500,000 hectares of private land covered by the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform or CARP already programmed for distribution. The Public Attorney's Office today filed a 6th Dengvaxia-related case before the Department of Justice. Health Secretary Francisco Duque is one of the respondents. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque is facing new criminal raps over the Dengvaxia controversy. Duque, along with former Secretary Janet Garin and over 30 health officials and officers of Sanofi Pasteur and Swilig Pharma, are being charged for reckless imprudence resulting in homicide and violation of the Anti-Torture Act. From the death of 13-year-old Jansen Art Bataan of Barangay 177, Camarin, Caloocan City, who died last January, 2 months after receiving Dengvaxia shot. The victim's father narrated that his son was inoculated on November 29 without their consent.
Nagagalitan ko yung anak ko eh. Sabi ko, Dak, bakit ka nagpapakuna? Hindi po mo ko tinatanong. Bakit yung school walang consent man lang sa atin na hindi nga yung consent namin eh.
The boy fell ill several days later and died within 24 hours after being admitted to the hospital. The forensic team of the Public Attorney's Office is convinced that Dengvaxia led to his death. PAO Chief Attorney Persida Acosta said Duque is liable because the inoculation happened under his watch.
Nabakunaan po siya November 29. Naka-assume po si Secretary Duque na November 6. Tuloy-tuloy po yung pagbabakuna.
This is the 6th criminal case filed by the Public Attorney's Office in relation to the Dengvaxia mess.
Umaksyon na kayo, Pangulong Duterte, nananawagan po ako sa inyo. Lahat po ng hinangain namin mga magulang, pakinggan niyo po.
The parents of Dengvaxia victims again demanded Duque's resignation.
Duque resign! Duque resign! Duque resign!
Roderick Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The PNP Counterintelligence Task Force arrested 2 airport policemen during an entrapment operation. Lea Ilagan tells us why.
2 airport policemen were arrested by the personnel of the Counterintelligence Task Force after they accepted 200 pesos marked money from the cop disguised as a driver. CITF spokesperson Police Chief Inspector Jewel Nicanor says they have been receiving complaints about the extortion of the two on-drivers of public utility vehicles since last year. The arrested were identified as Pablo Ataide Jr. and Danilo Levite Jr.
Nagkandak po kami ng surveillance together with them. So kagabi nga po, naikasa po natin yung trap and operation.
Authorities say the modus operandi of the suspects were to demand 100 to 200 pesos from taxi drivers who want to wait passengers on the arrival area of NAIA Terminal 2. Ataide and Levite will face robbery extortion. The CITF will continue its investigation to determine if they have accomplices.
We believe that meron pa rin pong iba na gumagawa doon sa ng ganung modus doon sa airport.
The PNP Aviation Security Group clarifies the two are not their members and that they are airport personnel. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Israel gears up ahead of a big event. Asher Kadapan Jr. tells us why.
Israel enters uncharted territory on Friday when it begins hosting the 3 opening stages of the Giro d'Italia, the biggest international sporting event to be held in the country. The Giro, along with the Tour de France and Spain's Vuelta, comprises one of the world's 3 major tours, and the Italian race's big start in Israel will mark the first time a cycling classic will include stages run outside Europe. Cycling buffs will focus on the riders and on Team Sky's Chris Froome, who is aiming to become the first rider since 1983 to hold all 3 major tours concurrently. Sylvan Adams, a Canadian-born Israeli entrepreneur and a cycling enthusiast credited with bringing the Giro's big start to Israel, has set up the Israel Cycling Academy team that will also compete in the race and includes 2 Israeli riders, another first. The 101st edition of the Giro will open with a 9.7-kilometer individual time trial on May 4 in Jerusalem, followed by road races on the next 2 days between Haifa and Tel Aviv, 167 kilometers, and Beersheba and Eilat, 229 kilometers. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue.
Up next on Y News. More migrants enter cross-border into the United States. Cambridge Analytica and parent firm shut down. Stay tuned for William Thio. I'm Angelo Castro III. Good evening.
Good evening. Here are the top stories on Y News tonight. Economists have recorded an increase in the prices of several commodities in April, and one reason is the implementation of the Tax Reform for Acceleration and Inclusion, or TRAIN law. They note much faster movement in prices of rice, canned goods, paper products, sugar-sweetened beverages and services, and products that uses oil. Economists also observe oil price hikes for 3 consecutive weeks. The National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, expects a 4% inflation rate during the first quarter of 2018. But the economists say the target has already been exceeded last month by 4.6%. They also believe the inflation rate will continue to surge this year. Meanwhile, the Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano said the arrested Filipino diplomats involved in the controversial rescue mission of distressed Filipino workers in Kuwait have immunity. However, this was allegedly rejected by the Kuwaiti government in the belief that the diplomats committed breach of sovereignty. But the DFA Secretary stressed the Filipino diplomats did not commit any violation under the Vienna Convention. Cayetano has previously apologized for the incident. In other news, presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque hopes that the Office of the Ombudsman will do something about the recent reports on the Commission on Audit regarding the questionable transactions of some government offices. Aside from this, COA also questioned the Presidential Legislative Liaison Office, or PLLO, for hiring 9 consultants which had cost the office 3.07 million pesos. And the most recent one, the controversy facing Tourism Secretary Wanda Tulfo Thio over her department's alleged 60 million peso advertisement contract with her brother's TV program on PTV4. Roque also encourages the Ombudsman to perform its mandate and file appropriate charges once they gather enough evidence.
The Ombudsman has to investigate and has to do its own case build-up. You just can't go to court and say, here's the COA report, convict. No, it doesn't work that way.
Beginning tomorrow, candidates for the barangay and sangguniang kabataan elections will kick off their respective campaign gimmicks. In line with this, the Department of the Interior and Local Government, or DILG, urges the public to take photos and videos of campaign materials that are not posted in the common poster areas. DILG Undersecretary for Barangay Affairs Martin Dino said they will investigate candidates found violating the rules.
Nung araw walang camera. Nung araw walang video. Ngayon lahat ng tao may camera at may video. Pag nakuwanan kayo, pasensyahan tayo. Disqualify kayo.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, will place under Oplan Tokhang barangay officials included in PDEA's list of personalities allegedly involved in illegal drugs. PNP Chief Police Director General Oscar Albayalde said they are waiting for the validated narco list from PDEA. They will also gather evidence against alleged protectors of drug syndicates and will file charges against them.
We can apply search warrant and we can conduct active police operations laban sa kanila. Yung iba namang gustong mag-surrender, then they are so welcome also.
Albayalde said they will conduct tokhang against barangay officials the same way they do with ordinary Filipinos. Department of Health Secretary Francisco Duque is facing new criminal raps over the Dengvaxia controversy. Duque, along with former Health Secretary Janet Garin and over 30 health officials and officers of Sanofi Pasteur and Zwilig Pharma, are being charged for reckless imprudence resulting in homicide and violation of the Anti-Torture Act. The case stems from the death of 13-year-old Jansen Art Pataan of Barangay 177 Camarin, Caloocan City, who died last January 2 months after receiving a Dengvaxia shot. PAO Chief Attorney Persida Acosta said Duque is liable because the inoculation happened under his watch. This is the sixth criminal case filed by the Public Attorney's Office in relation to the Dengvaxia mess. And for the news abroad, here is Jovic Bermas live from London, United Kingdom. Yes, good evening, Jovic.
Good evening, Will. The data firm embroiled in a controversy over its handling of Facebook Incorporated user data and its British parent firm are shutting down immediately. Cambridge Analytica and SCL Elections said on Wednesday they will begin bankruptcy proceedings after losing clients and facing mounting legal fees in the controversy over reports the company harvested personal data about Facebook users beginning in 2014. Allegations of improper use of data on 87 million Facebook users by Cambridge Analytica has hurt the shares of the world's biggest social network and prompted multiple official investigations. In the U.S., a military plane with 9 people aboard crashed in Georgia. Meanwhile, the Justice Department sends more attorneys and immigration judges to the U.S.-Mexican border. Nomer Penaranda tells us why.
12 more migrants from the Caribbean crossed the border into the United States late Wednesday. At least 88 Central American asylum seekers from the Caribbean through Mexico have crossed into the United States in a movement that prompted U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions to beef up legal resources on the border. In response, Sessions said the Justice Department was sending 35 additional assistant U.S. Attorney General and 18 immigration judges to the border, linking the decision to the Caribbean. A Puerto Rico Air National Guard cargo plane crashed on Wednesday near Savannah, Georgia, likely killing all 9 people aboard. A U.S. official says at least 5 were confirmed dead, adding that number of fatalities could rise. The Puerto Rico National Guard says the plane was on a training mission and was going to be essentially retired after Wednesday's flight. Iowa's legislature passed the most restrictive abortion ban in the U.S. on Wednesday, outlawing the procedure after a fetal heartbeat is detected, often at 6 weeks and before a woman realizes she is pregnant. The bill now goes to an abortion opponent, Governor Kim Reynolds, who has not said publicly whether she will sign it into a law. Nomer Peñaranda, UNTV News and Rescue, Virginia, USA.
In Germany, the police launched a raid on a migrant shelter on Thursday after 150 asylum seekers clashed with police 3 days ago and thwarted their efforts to deport a 23-year-old man from Togo. The clashes have hit the headlines, prompting some conservatives and the far-right alternative for Germany to say the arrival of more than 1.6 million migrants since 2014 has led to a collapse of law and order. Police in the southern town of Ilwangin had on Monday night been forced to release the man they wanted to deport, identified by media as Yusuf O, to avoid an escalation after extremely aggressive and violent confrontations. Some 150 migrants were involved in the clashes, with asylum seekers thumping police cars with their fists and leaving one damaged. The shelter is home to about 500 people seeking asylum. And in Libya, suicide bombers stormed the head offices of the country's electoral commission in Tripoli on Wednesday, killing at least 12 people and setting fire to the building in an attack claimed by the Islamic State militant group. The assailants also opened fire on employees of the High National Election Commission. A witness of the attack said men and women were murdered in cold blood. The attack appeared aimed at derailing efforts to organize elections in Libya by the end of this year, part of a UN-led attempt to unify and stabilize the country after years of conflict and political division. And those are the latest from other parts of the globe. Back to you, Will.
Thank you very much, Jovic Bermas, live from London, United Kingdom. Similar to humans, our pets also need protection this hot season. Leslie Lamboen tells us why.
Animals should be cared for to survive this hot season. Extreme heat can cause difficulty in breathing, heat stroke, and cardiac arrest to our pets. That's why Dr. Candice Solis shared some animal protection advices.
Laging mag-provide ng tubig. Kung di po sila pala inom, pwede po silang i-dump ng cold ice water or cold ice pack sa katawan nila.
And if your dogs or cats stay outside,
advice po natin na wag po silang ibilad sa araw. Kung kaya po silang ipasok o ilagyan ng lilim o tabunan na maging komportable po sila sa init.
While for those who walk their pets,
pwede din pong medyo bawasan yung haba nung tinatakbo o nilalakad. Kung di na po kaya ng aso, wag po pilitin.
Our pets are our responsibility, so make sure to care for them and keep them cool this season. Leslie Lamboen, UNTV News and Rescue, Marikina City.
Those are the reasons behind the news. May 3rd, 2018, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.